Someone told me. So technically, daughters have very little biological, put that in quotes, not economic or social, but biological function to their family. It is
Welcome to the TAUKIRWO Saturday show. TAUKIRWO is a Gikuyu language show where we teach about biological cells and the microbes that sometimes infect them. TAUKIRWO airs at 4 p.m. East African time on Thursdays, and that is a Gikuyu lesson that is usually taught by a team from Oge Media that works with me, Mutaramu Grace. Every weekend before that Thursday lesson, typically I teach the exact same lesson except in English. And we do this for two reasons. The first reason is, of course, not everybody speaks Gikuyu. And then the second reason is, if you notice, I usually use a lot of teaching materials. And so then the reason I do that is so that you guys have any pictures or images or graphs so that you have them in hand for now the mother tongue lesson on Thursday. And so that's why we have that set up, and that is what you're listening to today. Our topic selection usually comes from the viewer. So what you're seeing across the screen right now are the different topics that we talked about in 2024, and then you will shortly see the different topics that we have tackled in 2025. Again, we get all of these topics from you, our listeners, and then occasionally we will be watching things on social media, and then if we catch something that has something to do with science or science education or health or disease, usually we will now pick that up and integrate that into our lessons. And so that's what we did with this Dr. Gengori episode.
Someone told me. So technically, daughters have very little biological, put that in quotes, not economic or social, but biological function to their family.
So to this statement, I would like to remind the listener today that the fertilized egg that is part of human reproduction is made of chromosomes that come from the mother and from the father. Chromosomes are the way that DNA is organized. Typically, the egg that comes from the mother has 23 chromosomes, and then the sperm has 23 chromosomes. Now the final product has 46, and it is now at this point that the fertilized egg starts to develop.
So my sister is of no use to me because she cannot procreate our clan people. X factor.
I am not sure what the speaker meant by X factor, but for the sake of today's lesson, let us focus on one pair of chromosomes. Okay, let's say that this specific pair of chromosomes, it belongs to someone called John. What you see on your screen is one blue chromosome and one red chromosome. Yes? Earlier, we said that we typically get chromosomes from both parents. So what do you think this means about John's parents? It means that one of the chromosomes, it came from the mother, the red one, and then one of the blue ones came from the father. Now, let us say that John marries a wife. Let us call her Jane. Jane is represented by the gray bars there, or the gray chromosomes there. So what do you think will happen now if they have kids? Based on the diagram before, the one that we just saw, you might expect that they will have one kid that has red and gray, and then maybe one that has blue and gray. Let me bring in one more complication. So normally in nature, it's not so simple. Typically what happens is that before the chromosomes go from one generation to the next, sometimes they will mix with each other. I want you to think about sometimes if you have two sentences lined up next to each other, sometimes the letters might be able to switch between the sentences, especially if there are similar words. Or imagine if there are similar letters. So you can imagine a long complicated sentence, but when there are similar words, they can switch letters. And so that's what sometimes happens with the chromosomes. And this is one way that you can get genetic diversity. But even with all of that, the children will get one from John and one from Jane, right? And that's what we see. Here are the grandchildren. So whether they are male or female, they will carry the information of their line all the way back from their grandparents. And in this picture, even Jane, who is the newcomer to this family, she is also now continuing part of her line or part of her genetic lineage. In the example we just discussed, we focused on one chromosome pair. So if you look at them all of them arranged, this is what it looks like. And I want to draw your attention and I want you to focus on the very last pair. That is the one that is typically used to determine male versus female. So if you have one X and one Y, you are typically called a male. And then if you have two X's, then you are typically called a female. So there are some exceptions, but those are the broad rules. So yeah, I hope this lesson was clear and that it answered your questions. I will see you either on Thursday if you speak Kikuyu or on Saturday where we will be talking about phantom limb pains. So there is a listener who saw somebody on TikTok who was discussing this topic, and so she wanted us now to discuss it for one of our lessons. So that's what we are going to prepare, and then we will see you guys next week. Bye.